Hello dear viewers, sorry you haven't seen my fat ugly face for a while. That's because I've been really busy mastering a whole bunch of albums for a major artist based in LA. That's done and dusted off now, but we've got to wait 6 months for the vinyl before it can all be released. But once it is released, then we're going to do some interviews and a whole video series on that process, so that will be very interesting. Talking of mastering, I've been pretty swamped with it lately, so our free test master and half price offer may have to draw to a close soon. We'll do our best to keep it active, but can't promise anything, so get in while you still can if you're on the fence. Details below. Anyway, welcome to news episode, I don't know what episode number it is, and frankly, who gives a shit? Let's get on with it. American console manufacturers API have just launched a monitor controller. Based on the monitoring section from their classic consoles, the MC531 can switch between 5 input sources, 3 on balanced TRS jacks, 1 on mini jack or Bluetooth, and 1 digitally via AES or USB. There are 3 sets of monitor outputs and a mono sub out, 2 headphone outputs, dedicated unity level balanced meter outputs for dedicated metering, and built-in talkback. The inputs are buffered using the API 2510 op amp, which I think have a sound, maybe I'm wrong, and the outputs are switchable between API 2520 op amp and transformer, which again I think have a sound. Now that's interesting, because if there's one thing I don't want a monitor controller to have, it's a sound, but I'm sure API know what they're doing. All their stuff sounds great and it'll all be fine. The one thing seemingly missing that I find essential in a monitor controller is a button that reverses the polarity of either the left or right signal. This, in conjunction with the mono button, gives you the side signal, and that's an essential part of my personal mastering workflow. I have read the manual and I can't find a workaround or any kind of hidden functionality for that, so that would rule it out for me personally. I'd have also liked to have seen the option for 2 sub outputs. There are tracks, and quite a few tracks out there, with stereo bass, so a stereo sub output is again essential for my workflow. Anyway, the unit comes in with a manufacturer's recommended retail price of $2,495 in the US, so it ain't cheap, but we'll try and get our hands on one to review if you're interested. If you are, leave us a comment below. Of much more interest to me personally is the news that legendary British audio engineer and product designer Ted Fletcher has re-released the infamous Alice 828 mixing console, and it comes in at about the same price as the API monitor controller, so that's where my buck would be banged. Ted is also the brains and brawn behind the revered TF Pro brand of products and those green Joe Meek units, for those of you old enough to remember those. The 828 was originally designed as a broadcast mixer, but found a valued place in many a home and project studio when many broadcast facilities went digital and sold them all for tuppence. Indeed, I owned one back in the 90s when I had a home-based setup. The 828 Mark III is being handmade in Blighty with through-hole components just like in the good old days, and the basic configuration offers 3 mono input channels with transformer balanced microphone inputs that sound incredibly neutral at sensible gain levels, but beautifully characterful when you crank them up a bit. There's also a Baxendall style low frequency and high frequency shelving EQ on the 3 mono channels with a sweepable mid-range from 700Hz to 4kHz, and there's 5 stereo channels which don't feature mic pre's or EQ, but fear not, these desks are all handmade and can be spec'd to order, so if you want mic pre's and EQ on every channel, or just 2 mic pre's and EQ on the stereo channels, then it can be done. An unusual feature is a rear equalised turntable input, so you can play records in the studio, and the 828 is graced with all analogue diode based limiters on the main outputs, which I used to love on my old 828 back in the day. All in all, this is a desk with a pretty unique feature set, but coming in at a very good price, and I recently hooked up with Ted to ask if we could have one in to review and get to do an interview with him, because he's just so humble and so modest and so lovely, but I hold him in as much regard as Rupert Neve. He's an absolute legend and a genius, so hopefully we'll get to talk to him really soon. Want drums on your track? Well, our good friend and top drummer Dan Garcia is offering a pay what you want service throughout January, so I should have got this video out sooner. Anyway, Dan worked with us last year on the track All My Life from our competition winner Javier Carrillo, the video for which never saw the light of day for various reasons, mainly, again, my fault, but Dan absolutely nailed it, and he's a lovely chap to boot, so pay him a visit on his website dangarciadrums.com if you want proper skins on your song, a real musician hitting real stuff like they mean it. That's what we like. To finish off, we have this lovely stereo microphone, the V44 from Vanguard Audio Labs, which we haven't had time to properly review and pitch up against our stereo staple, the Lewitt LCT640. Again, my fault, but I wanted to go and record a Yamaha Disclavier so as we could get a precisely repeatable performance, but we had to write a piece of music and then get someone to play it because I suck on piano, and then go and record the audio and the video, and I've been too busy and James has been really busy and pandemics and blah. So we'll end this video with some music playing back through our speakers here, captured with the V44 and the Lewitt LCT640. If you do want to see a proper review of this mic, and I'd highly recommend it, then head over to James Ivey's wonderful Studio Rats channel. Link is in the description. And James has been over to pay us a visit, and we're going to be working on some videos together very, very soon. So make sure you've subscribed and ding the ding dong if you haven't already, and you'll see us in the next video where we look at the only digital room correction solution we've tried and actually like.